Susan, do we have any announcements, free announcements of any sort?
We have the Zeeb, Tom Zeeb, speaking at our general meeting on Thursday, and then he's holding a workshop on Saturday. That's in November. The 12th is the general meeting, and the 14th is the Saturday workshop. And
all on Zoom?
Yes. Yeah, it's
tell
great.
us a little bit about this guy.
Well, Tom Zeeb is going to be talking about the his rapid cash generator, making money with motivated sellers, finding and negotiating and how to get the cash. And there's 5 steps that he teaches on how to do that. More deals, more profits, more freedom. Tom Zeeb.
Just not in New York.
Well, 60 days from start to cash. He's got some good techniques on at least finding the sellers, the motivated sellers. So we'll see how he does. He's had very high ratings with other REIA chapters. They're all of the national speakers are rated during the mid-year conference that goes on each year for National REIA. And they don't allow any of those speakers in the room. So that people feel very comfortable telling the truth and their experience about their experience with whatever speaker is there. And Tom Zeeb is one of the highest rated speakers. So we're feeling very lucky to have him have the time to talk with us.
What state is he from?
I'm not sure. He does know that New York State has its challenges with wholesaling, but that doesn't, but that's the transactional part of it. Finding those motivated sellers is and finding the buyers is what he's going to be talking about. So
I'll be okay. Karl, he's from DC.
Gotcha.
And the environs, Virginia. And I'm sorry I couldn't get back to you. I was trying to get Frank in, and he's here. So.
Hey, Frank.
Yep.
And right now there is an uptick on motivated sellers for obvious reasons, right, Colleen? Speaking of wholesaling, why don't you give a little blurb for tomorrow?
Oh yeah, so tomorrow we have an every other week Zoom call for investors, and tomorrow's topic is going to be wholesaling, and our very, very, very special sexy guest is going to be Joe LaBarbera, who's going to just share some of the knowledge he has about wholesaling with some of the people that are on the call. We've got realtors on the call who want to know about wholesaling because they often run into wholesalers. We've got people who want to get into wholesaling. There's a wide variety of people. I think we've got like 60 people signed up for it already. So whether or not they all remember it and get on tomorrow is one thing, but I think it'll be an entertaining call to say the least.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. Galaxy, you still there? You want to chime in and introduce yourself? I haven't seen yeah, that's okay. 5G, man, that's all right. Well, let's get started. We want to get out of here soon. So it's been a month since we covered what happened last month, but a lot of things have changed recently. And I think most of you know, and if not, the courts have now reopened as of October 12th for filings with getting court dates. That's the good news. The not so good news is there's still some hurdles in why you may not get a judgment and or warrant until down the road till January 1st and after. So has anybody filed anything recently? Or your attorneys, anybody? How about you, Beth? Is your attorney filing now?
Yeah, I mean, we have some cases in for holdovers, but as far as non-payment who we know are not COVID related, we're still in that 14-day window. Because we weren't doing the 14 days through a process server, so we're still kind of waiting for that time to expire.
Right. Yeah. If you haven't served your 14 days, get them out now. I did mine last week. Like Beth, waiting for that to expire. And then little side note, a couple little things. One, and this makes no sense, but if you're represented by an attorney, they have to mail their stuff in. No sense. However, if you're pro se doing it yourself, you can walk in person and do it. Doesn't make any sense. Also, remember what Beth, you have your attorney do it. So you,
Yeah.
but this is something you got to know. There are two addendums that are you're able to print out on the court site that you have to attach now to your petitions, and that's the one in English, one in Spanish, that basically notifies the tenant they have the right to an adjournment or right to a stay, another and legal representation. So it's right in their face to call this number or go on this website for legal help and or know your rights in terms of hearings and stays and so forth. So that has to be attached on all your the one you file, all of them, not just the one that you file, pursuant to our attorney on that. Did y'all know that? No. They did change a few things down there. We're in the second term right now. Lopez, then it's that new lady, and then it's Morrison in December. But they cut it down to 4 sessions: one at 9:30, one at 10:30, one at 1, one at 2, 10 in each one. And the reason why, has anybody been down there and sat in any court since they've opened? Anybody other than myself? Okay. So the reason why they do that is there's opening remarks and comments and so on. And essentially they clear out the courtroom. And it takes about an hour. Everybody in the hallway, you're getting screened by the screening process for funds that are available. You're getting screened by legal aid, legal services. You're getting paired up with an attorney for representation. DHS is there with their table. So it's a one-stop shopping program. So you have a whole hour out there. So they're going to do the second session speech. They go in the hallway, and the first session goes back in. So I kind of like that. Anybody have any questions on the statutes or the orders that have been given about stays and that kind of thing? Everybody's good?
Yeah, excuse me. This is Jamal. I haven't been there for a long time. Actually, don't come down much. Recently, I moved. I'm kind of busy. I didn't even come. I'm glad I hear the court is open, but I just want to explain that when you just ask. I'm not familiar with a lot of things. Probably have to get a lawyer to get with this thing keep going. 2 people that one didn't pay for 6 months, another one didn't pay for 5 months in the same unit, actually side by side. So I just need help with this, and probably have to get to lawyer.
You have a lawyer that's doing it for you?
You know, both people was in court, one in December, one in January, with Erin, John Naka's office.
Right.
At that time, they asked them to pay money. They asked them to stay until one tenant, until the until the lease expire. Another one, they just asked to pay the rent and stay. I didn't also ask that one for eviction. Then after they asked them money to pay, I asked a lawyer to write letter to them for 60-day notice for moving. But the corona came and they say, we're not gonna move, and they continue playing game after that. So I did write, I just keep writing notice to 14-day notice just to pay the rent and move if you find a new place. But that's it. I just keep writing letter, nothing else is done.
Right, but now, Galaxy, now you can use that 14-day notice as a prerequisite to an actual filing of a petition. So,
Okay.
and your attorney should know that. You're using the NACAs too. I use NACAs also. So get with Aaron, get the information to them, and they'll follow through and get filings done. So, my question to you: you said this was pre-COVID cases, so you had to go back to court for another hearing. Did that happen recently?
Actually, the judgment is before COVID-19, but they as when they gave them 60-day notice, it's in January, the one when they in court. But when they give them until April, end of April, but then at that time they say we didn't find a place and there's corona coming. Then I couldn't go back to court. I called the Erin after that, the lawyer, attorney, but she said, at this time, there's not much we can do because they are not they are in the corona situation. So that's where I stuck until now.
All right, so that's all changed now. So your first call tomorrow is to Aaron and to get that petition moving forward and get him out of there.
Yeah, I called other day. I think she's kind of busy, but I called several times actually. She just keeps saying calling me back, and then sometimes she doesn't answer the phone. Maybe she's too busy. There's a lot of issues probably going on.
Yeah, she's got about 300 cases. Jamie's got about 400 cases, so it's going to be a little cluster down there for a little bit.
She also told me told me maybe this is all the case, but maybe I just get another lawyer. I don't know. She's kind of not responding to me as much as I want to move forward with this thing. Maybe
yeah,
she's
if you got too much
overwhelmed.
on your plate, that kind of happens. Been there, done that. So that's your call to move on. So
okay, I call her again, and if I just really I want them to get out of my property more than. There is some money still. It's a lot of money for both two houses. But also, the time goes on and they're just wasting resources. I mean, holding us hostage.
So Galaxy, you do know that they have an intake form for you to fill out and to email them, right? So they know they have all the information. You do that, right? They don't do it over the phone. You got to fill out an intake form. So, and you should have one of those already, unless this is your first time using them. I don't know. Let's kind of, any other questions? We're all good. I think a lot of you just heard Gary Kirkmeyer's update with what's going on out there. And Beth, did you mention that you did utilize that $2,000 or $4,000 grant or not?
We have not. We have not. However, since it went, because it's a ton of paperwork for $2,000. I mean, $2,000 is a lot of money, but you're giving away your firstborn child and their kid. So $4,000, I think, is something that we'll look into for sure. That's definitely a good incentive.
Anybody else apply for the 4,000 grant? Not really. All right, so let's move on to and by the way, this moratorium of eviction to January 1st applies to COVID affected tenants, and they have to kind of prove that in court for it to be valid. It doesn't affect the holdover proceedings or the lease violation proceedings. They're still moving forward normally. Also, I heard that a couple of attorneys actually got a default judgment. They didn't show up. It was on a holdover, got an immediate warrant, and it's moving forward that way. So that's happened recently in city court. So anything else in that on that topic?
How do they find out the? I know one of my tenants doesn't have nothing to do with Corona. She, first of all, she said her husband is sick, she couldn't pay the rent, and eventually she just ignored me and she never said nothing about Corona. Second one is lying also. He said he laid over, then he go back in August, he's working, but then he's not working, he's working, no, he's lying.
That's all. Hey, that's all noise. Don't worry about that. She's gonna have to prove that in court. All right. Her day in court would take care of that problem. All right. Right now, your mission is to get that petition filed via your attorney.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So a lot of talk about the CFC, lots of money down there, but hardly is going out the door, which is problematic. So Beth has got a little thing on that process and how to qualify and the ins and outs, and a little idea that Gallagher has that's trying. But Beth, you sent me a nice bullet list of of qualifications and what they accept, don't accept. If we can go over all those, it'd be kind of cool.
Okay, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Let me just pull it up real quick. And then I think there's some tidbits we'll talk about too, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
EPI, Eviction Prevention Pilot Initiative.
Now I'm going to skip the first one just because I think that's something we can circle back to.
Yeah.
So if somebody's denied the first time, they can definitely reapply, and I think that comes into kind of what Kirkmeyer was saying tonight, where they're constantly changing things and seeing what's going to work. So I feel that just because somebody's denied before, they're told, moving forward as they see what's working and not working, they can do that. The rep that we spoke to, who's higher up at CFC, was saying they have enough money to pay out $20,000 per day for the rest of the year. They are only paying out $5,000 per day because so many people are being denied. So this, I think, goes to what I was saying last month, and what I've been saying for the last month is that we have tenants applying left and right, and we've seen a handful of checks, not many. And what it's coming down to is they're being denied because they can't prove that they can afford rent moving forward. So, they might owe 4 months. Let's say their rent's $1,000, but when CFC does their calculations, they say, oh, you can only afford $600. So then you're stuck because you're out the 4 months of rent. You have this tenant you can't evict for 2 more months, or if that gets extended. So everybody's just stuck. So what we have come up with is, and this is kind of the catch-22, is what we've come up with, and we've cleared it with CFC, is if a tenant is going to be denied because they can't sustain rent going forward, we are willing to amend their current lease, basically do a temporary lease until January, February, for, let's say, $500, because that's what the tenant can afford. So their rent used to be $1,000. Now for the next 4 months, we're going to do it $500. What that does for the owner is it gets them all that back rent. You're only getting half a rent for the next 4 months, but it's something instead of being denied fully. And then what we're proposing to do after, January, February, is to bring rent back up to where it should be. So they have 4 months to get their ducks in order and figure it out. Now, the problem is, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning, is that know if they are denied or not. Basically, we can call and CFC can say, yes, this person's in process, or yes, this person has been denied. But we don't have that information on why they were denied. So what we've been telling our tenants is, and this just happened this week, is listen, if you are denied and they tell you it's because you can't afford rent moving forward, I want you to ask the CFC person, say, my property manager said they're going to work with me and make it affordable for me. Can you call Sharon at my office? And Sharon at that point in time has full authority to figure out. Now, see, I don't know how much information CFC will give us as far as what's affordable for them. So I'm hoping between the conversation, we can come to an agreement if it's $500, $600, $700, because I just don't want to say 500. What if they can afford $950? You know what I mean? So that's what we've come up with. But the problem is that CFC doesn't call us and say, hey, they're denied. Will you lower the rent? So that's kind of the pickle there that we're trying to figure out. So that's why we're asking the tenants to let us know.
We have to get with CFC to find out what their formula is. All we need to know is their formula. I mean, typically on our side, it's rent times 3 is what we go by. But
Right.
Right now, have you gone through this process, Beth, where a tenant has reapplied with the adjusted lease yet?
Not yet, but we did hypotheticals and they went to their supervisors and said absolutely they would accept that because it makes it affordable moving forward. So they're keeping one less, homeless person off the street.
So until we get that formula, you are arbitrarily just picking a number for that lowered rent, right?
Yes. Yep.
And hoping it sticks.
Yes. Yep. A couple other things in there is once a tenant applies, and here's another thought, is they have to call 211 to apply for CFC. Most people call during the day and they can't get through. 211's open 24 hours a day. So we've been telling our tenants to call after 10 o'clock at night and they've had no problem getting through. So that's kind of a, something to think of, because you and I both know nobody wants to call 100 times. And once they make that first phone call, the tenant only has 5 days to turn in paperwork. So as far as all of their income information, 5 days, they're homeschooling, they have kids at home, they might be working. It's not a lot of time. So CFC is actually telling people, here's the paperwork you need. Call us back once you have it, and then we'll start the application. So that was another thing that we thought was interesting.
To make this a little worse is that CFC has staffing issues.
Yeah.
So they can't even keep their staff. So as far as a lot of people calling, and then they don't have the proper staff to handle the caseload. So it's a mess.
Yeah, and then with all of the changes from the start of the program to where they are now, there's just been a lot of changes, and some people just don't have the stomach for that. And as much as you don't want to hear it, for people who were on unemployment and got that extra $600 a week and they blew their money, they're still helping those people. So the house must have a valid C of O, we were told, but Kirkmeyer explained on the thing today that you can have violations, they just can't be health and safety violations. I think that's pretty, kind of standard. They'll pay up to 6 months of back rent. DSS tenants do not qualify. Section 8 tenants do qualify. And they've actually adjusted their income requirements. They actually adjusted their income requirements. So 3 weeks ago, their income requirements were lower than they are now. But the other problem I have with that is when this first started, and was it August, Carl? When this program started? I've had a ton of tenants be denied because they make too much money. Well, now they've made their standards higher, but how do you know what that threshold is? And do I tell my tenants to go reapply again when they've already been denied? Do you know what I mean? And like Kirkmeyer said tonight, they're always changing things. So now all the people who are denied and now they qualify, I don't feel like they're going back and saying, hey, now we can help you.
And to exacerbate the problem, Beth, tell us about they got personnel problems over there, which is causing a cluster, right?
Yep. And, I think Kirkmeyer said that too, as he didn't say personnel problems, but he said, they had a bunch of different agencies helping, and then they moved everything to CFC, and CFC doesn't have enough employees to do it. So they have people from United Way coming over to volunteer, and then they get sick of it after, a couple weeks and they stop. So definite, problems with that. There's no longevity.
And here's the scary thing. You missed this part here, but you mentioned that all the funds need to be paid out by January 1st.
Yeah.
And
I mean, come on, you have $20,000 a day to pay out, and they're only qualifying $5,000 a day. My tenants could eat up for the next month. You know what I mean? So if you have that much money to pay out, you gotta lower your standards somewhere.
Well, one good thing about the meeting today, Beth, is that website resource, the housing website, where they're attempting to have the CFC information in terms of the property and maybe the tenant to see if they in fact applied. They're not sure as to how much information they can give us yet, but they're trying to hook that up so that we can go into a website and we can know, there's 123 Avenue B and they've applied on this date. Oh, cool. Now we know that, because right now we don't know nothing.
See, I did hear that, and isn't that kind of an invasion of privacy from a tenant point of view? Like, would you want your neighbor looking up your street to see who's looking for assistance? I'm just thinking from a tenant point of view.
Good point.
Yeah.
Now they may not have to list the tenant's name or info, just the unit, just the house number.
Right.
That was their concern. They didn't mention that was their concern, and that's why they're going at it slowly.
But I do feel that and Kirkmeyer said they're changing as things progress, but I do feel like the landlord should be able to check the status of it. Because we have tenants who are claiming, oh, they haven't called me back. I turned in all my paperwork. I haven't heard anything. I just feel like I should know, were they denied a month ago and they're still just using this as an excuse?
Very good. Anybody else have any experience with the CFC process, or any funds received from them at all? Anybody? Not really? Okay. I have again, I don't know, but I have a handful. I have 158 units. I have a handful that are going through the process. And I know this because they call me up, hey, I need my lease, copy of lease, right? When I shipped out the my notice of agencies that has money, I actually put the 14-day notice right in there just to have, so they can go in and apply with that. So we'll see what happens, but they got to get on the ball to get 20 grand a day going, and Gary's got to be on it.
I did have someone earlier this week, they were approved for, it was just north of $4,000. So we had to fill out the W-9 and stuff. So I know that money's coming. But I just feel for the tenants who got on it right away and may have been denied because they can't afford rent moving forward, or they made too much or something like that, because they just missed out on it because they're lowering the standards now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wish they would look back, because the people who applied in the beginning are the responsible ones.
But you said that they can reapply.
They can reapply, but how do you really get them to do that?
True. Money's there. Other strategies to deal with these many months of no rent. Last time we talked about the strategy of utilizing the small claims court. Beth went through that. By the way, how's that been working?
We haven't actually gone to court yet.
Have you filed?
Yeah, so we did amend it, because when we originally came up with the small claims court thing, that was before eviction court opened. So now that eviction court opened, kind of what we're trying is if a tenant owes 5 months of rent, we're doing small claims court for the first 3 months and then filing for eviction on the other 2. So we'll see how that works out. I have a feeling that the arbitrator and the judges are going to be like, you're double dipping, but there are 5 different months. So I feel like they should be separate, but we'll see how it works out.
Gotcha. Anybody else? How you dealing with tenants not paying 5, 6, 7 months? Let me tell you what I've done. I did it in August and this month. In August, I had 35 letters that went out, lease termination notices. Thank you, Gallagher, Melcar Way. And this is the one where, this is what we're going to do. We're going to waive all back rent. You got to make sure the place is clean when you leave, and we won't give you, we'll stop the eviction. All these incentives. And finally, the cash part, we're going to give you $1,000 to help with moving, cash on the walkout. So in August, 35 went out. 2 took me on the offer. 2. September this month for a November move out, I had 44 go out. 1 took the offer. Worth every penny, by the way. My God. So, and what's nice about this strategy, which doesn't really work a whole lot, is you got a lot of leverage. You got that cash, right? You are holding the strings. Place has got to be clean. Everything out. Cars off the property. Until that happens, you ain't getting this. So you're getting a clean apartment back, number one. And what I'm also finding out too, it's blowing me away, is these things are being rented within 3, 4, 5 days. I mean, they're quick. So now we got money generating apartments on one where there's going to be no money for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. So it's up to you. Have you done any of those, Beth, since the last time?
Yeah, we've done a couple. We don't offer them a ton, but especially since eviction court opened up. But we have done a couple, especially to our problem tenants that we just need to wash our hands of. And the stress relief, it's totally worth it. I see Susan laughing. Absolutely, it's worth it.
Now, you might think about, rather than go for not payment of rent and go down that road of who knows what will happen, why don't I just give them a vacate notice? Now, of course, you got that 30, 60, 90 thing going on, right? But let's just do a holdover thing. So what I thought of doing was anybody within my first year and they fell in that category of having rent issues, give them a 30-day notice to be out.
Yeah.
Great idea. It's against the law, I find out. So the new statute 8192A, section 5, they put this in there at the last minute, allows you not to do that. So it says right there, you cannot terminate a tenancy if a tenant has not paid some or all the rent from March 7 to whenever. You cannot terminate the tenancy. If you do, it's considered retaliatory eviction. Now, with
Carl, you can always find another reason.
True.
Right?
True. Oh yeah, there's other reasons. Absolutely. Yeah. But I thought, that's an obvious one, and then I found out I couldn't do this. So there's other reasons too. Yeah. Lease violations is a big one.
Mm-hmm. Don't you wish we could go back to 3 years when you could evict someone by filling out one piece of paper?
Oh, it's brutal out there now.
I know.
It changes by the day, by the week. It's just.
I'm really curious because I've been talking to our lawyer about it. And I really, I know Pat talked to him about it. I really want him to be able to, when they get to court for these people, non-payments, and they sign that CDC thing saying they're COVID affected, blah, blah, blah. So one thing that I think is our key as a landlord is they have to be making what is it? Good faith payments, meaning they have to be making some kind of payment. I want my lawyer to cross-examine them because there is so many tenants who haven't paid a nickel. And if they can prove that they didn't check that box of making partial payments, legally it should get thrown out that they're not covered by the CDC moratorium. So it should be a real non-payment eviction. I don't know if the judges are going to allow that though.
Correct. That's the unknown factor. Nobody has yet got that far in court where they can cross-examine that declaration form. They're going to try to argue. Good lawyers will go at it, but that's an unknown because the statute doesn't call for that. It's silent on that part of it. Whereby the CDC law does provide that piece of the puzzle where they do need to show this, and this. Over there. So we yet to be seen, Beth. We'll see how that goes. What's happening with the declaration forms? I checked in with the NACAs and Jamie, as you heard, she didn't see a whole lot of those declarations, but a month ago when Crimmy was in there, they were being tossed around left and right. And what he did, and again, this judge, the current judge is not doing this, but what he did was, you got, and legal aid was handing those forms right in court to the lawyer. Hey, I got the declaration form. Oh, great. Once the judge knows that, we're going to adjourn this to January 4th. See ya. Boom. Which was wrong.
But the other thing with that is it says on that paper that if they sign it and they're lying, they are supposed to be, perjury. But
yeah. You can go down that road if you have proof of perjury. You want to go down that road legally.
Well, I have proof because my ledger says they haven't paid anything, and they just signed a paper saying they've been making partial payments. So I don't know. I would think, but then again, like you said, it depends what the judges allow.
I had we had I'll tell you a little story with Erin. She was in court the other day, and she's a pit bull down there too at sometimes. But in the hallway, legal aid is telling her, "Oh yeah, she's been affected," or I think it was the other way around, where she was not affected or working or this or that. She gave Erin some sensitive information, contrary to what the declaration said. So essentially, they're going to try to submit the declaration, but she knew the information to be opposite. So she was going to call for a sanction. She's going to put a motion in to sanction the lawyer for lying in court. I never got that far, but she told me that story that it kind of fizzled out. Anyways, we'll see what goes on. Anybody else? Any other topics out there?
I just want a question, please. So now, if I go to court for non-payment for 6 months or 5 months, two of them, 1 5 months, 1 6 months, what do I ask? Is it eviction or recovery of money, and how that go about?
Okay.
What is this way to
right.
go?
So the current statutes and orders, it's the burden of the tenant to show that they've been affected with COVID financially, so that they couldn't pay part or all the rent. The judges are going to screen them and make sure that they have been, that's true. It's correct. They're not lying. If that is true and has been proven in court credibly, then you're going to get a judgment only 5G. Possession of property is stayed for a long time. Right now it's January 1, and then the Safe Harbor Act kicks in to middle of 2021.
So you can't evict. That means they cannot evict, so they're gonna give them time to stay. Is that what you're saying?
You're not going to get a possessory. You're not going to get a warrant to move them out.
Okay.
That's part of the the Cuomo thing and the CDC thing. So, but they have to prove, credibly that they didn't pay rent because they lost their job. This happened.
Okay.
They got to show proof acceptable to the judge. Now, of course, judges, they're all going to be different, and who knows what kind of proof or questioning they're going to do, and to get to the point of yes, you were or you were not affected to qualify for the judgment only and no warrant. That's yet to be. We haven't had any that I know of that's gotten that far yet. But the new cases are all loaded up. I asked the chief clerk down there, and it says no, they're. We thought there was an avalanche coming at us. It was going to be, but. No, we got dates open first, second week in November. New cases. Oh, cool.
Wait till next week when you can actually file, because
Right.
now you wait to serve the 14th. Then
Right.
I think the avalanche will come.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So
if they prove they didn't affected by coronavirus, so they just avoiding payment. So what do they allow eviction?
well, if they what?
If they are just evasive, but they still working, but didn't want to pay rent.
Again, that'll show up in court. That'll be proven and that'll be exposed in court. All those things you're talking about should be exposed in court. And
But do they allow, if the tenant is not affected by corona, but if evasive to pay rent, do they allow eviction to go forward, or they still gonna hold it?
If they can't prove in a cross-examination that coronavirus is why they're not paying, not just saying I can't pay, but they can't prove it at that point, they will still evict.
Okay.
correct. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the other thing, 5G, if you've got the lease violation option, you've got the lease termination option. So, if they're violating lease terms on a regular basis, you can go down that road. You're eliminating the 14-day pay or quit. You get away from this. I've been affected by COVID kind of thing. So that's another option. I don't know what your situation is. I don't want to get into it, but think about those. There's a way around it.
None of them had a list. Those two who could give me a hard time, and one I just send them to renew by mail and negotiated, and they not replying. So the other one expired in March. I mean in April, end of April. They not. I just want to wait to want the court to say to evict, but I want those people to evict.
Get on the phone with Aaron, and you just certified the importance of having a written lease. You can't evict on a verbal for lease violations. You can't evict. You cannot put late fees on a verbal.
Yeah, I wrote give them that notice here for late fee and not for not paying rent. I have those in writing.
You got the 30, 60, 90 rule if But anyways. Hey, Trenton's on. Leon's on. Anybody else? We're gonna Leon, we're gonna shut down kind of early tonight, a little bit here. So you got anything going on, Leon?
There's always things going on, Carl, as you well know.
Fire away.
I really only have one major item. I mean, well, maybe more than one. Let's start with the simplest one first. I'm assuming that a lot of folks were on the call tonight associated with the city, and you probably talked about that a bit. I got on the call a little bit late because they had so many other things going on, like most of the folks who work in real estate these days and have all these extra items they got to do that they didn't have to do 5 years ago. Okay, 2 years ago. And so got on late because of that. Um, I think that a lot of the things that they talked about from the standpoint of the city and what the city is doing is good. I think that one of the things that we need to do is to really have them focus more on what is it that they should be doing to help landlords. Okay, because I don't know whether anybody else checked, but certainly I did. And that is, they didn't say that I didn't have to pay my taxes this year. They didn't give me any type of recourse against that. And all the things that's going on is making life tremendously more difficult for all of us. So I won't get into a lot of that. One of the things I'm going to do is set up a meeting with the subgroup leaders and board and talk about what is it that we should be doing to put more pressure, for sake of better words, on the city itself and what they're doing to really help landlords, given the situation that we're in right now. Got a lot of programs, and I've been involved with Gary Kirkmeyer and a number of the things that they've been doing, and talked to them about a lot of the things that you heard them present tonight, and push back a bit. I never push back as much as Mary D'Alessandro does, but I pushed back a bit and basically said, what is it that you're doing? You outlining a whole bunch of things for us to do. It's all geared towards tenants. And, I mean, I didn't say these words, but clearly, if you look at what's happening, the landlords are the ones that's part of the brunt, from the standpoint of they're the ones who are ending up still having to pay the taxes, still having to do all the things, and still saying, don't make your payments by this particular date, then we're going to sell your tax lien and we're going to pursue foreclosure, all those sorts of things. So a long way of saying that what we want to do is try to do some things to shift the emphasis. A lot of the meetings that I've been in have, basically been situations where I say, I don't really have enough bandwidth to cover all this sorts of things. And Beth, I mentioned her name, and Pat Gallagher's, to address a couple of sessions that Gary wants to have representation from Freedom First in. So I don't know whether he's gotten back to you, but if he doesn't, then give me a shout. So
yeah, he did reach out to Pat to be on a panel for something, and Pat did say that he would. So they have been communicating.
Okay, good. And, so at this point in time, it's really tough. I don't know how many of you saw Mary D'Alessandro's email that she forwarded on. I can't remember the person's name, but the losses that like one individual has from a rent payment perspective, when you look at that and you think through it, and you sort of say, it's not like a small piece of things are broke, a major piece of it is broke. One of the things I personally do not like, and I'm not speaking for the rest of you guys here, is the fact that we have all these meetings with the city where we're trying to outline new programs and new things for them to do. The last time I checked, I don't think tenants actually pay taxes. We basically do. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers that was generated by Herm, Cologne, I mean, basically, if you look at those things, you're astounded at the amount of increase that the city has had in the way of taxes over the last 10 years or so. I mean, those numbers are unbelievable. You should have just been able to be the city and invest in them instead of the stock market. I mean, the numbers are just great, and they're continuing to put in place programs that require more people and additional services, and most of those have very little impact that's positive for landlords. Okay, I'll stop for a while now because I can go on and on with this. As you can see, I'm not exactly a happy camper with some of the things that's going on with the city at this point, because If you look at what they should be doing, it should be addressing my personal view. And I always make sure that I say my personal view versus all the members of Freedom First. Cities should be looking at what they're going to do to reduce the overall costs that they have in place to run the government, to run the city of Rochester. I mean, we live in a place that if you look at the 16 counties in the US, we are like 13th or something like that from the standpoint of expense that we pay out. I mean, that's a lot of money. We should be in a little bit different spot. So that was number one. And I could go on and on with that for, I'm a sort of a quiet guy in case you guys don't realize it. So I'm on a little bit different mode right now today. I'm sort of a little pissed off if you want me to be direct with you. So the second thing I wanted to mention is for the general meeting coming up in November, we're going to have a guest speaker. And the guest speaker is going to be really aimed at and talking about how you find motivated sellers and how you basically are able to be successful at doing that. I won't go into any more detail in that because a lot of the things are on the website. If you go to the link that's there, you'll be able to see more details. And so we're going to follow that meeting on Thursday night with a meeting on Saturday that is a complete workshop. There's a cost for the workshop is $29. And I think if I'm correct, it's $29 for non-members, $20 for members. And basically what happens is you go to it's an all-day workshop starting at 9 and ending at 4. And it's like everything else in life. The person whose name is Tom Zeeb will do the presentation. And as I talked about in the Aries meeting, this guy is really good. He's considered by the National REIA group to be one of the best folks when it comes to presenting things that you can do to be successful as a real estate investor. Number one out of all of the different REIA groups across the US. And so I'm just mentioning that and saying to people, look at it. And I view my level of success very, very simply when it comes to whether or not I'm doing the right thing from a Freedom First perspective. Because it really is all about opportunities and what are the opportunities that we present to this particular group, and then they pick what they want to. If it's great for them, fine. If they're not, that's fine too. But the key objective is to always present something of value. So I have people look at it, and we'll have some more discussions between now and then from the standpoint of the leadership group and decide what it is that we're going to do. We may do some things to augment what is happening with that particular presenter and how we do things to sort of tie things together. Tell people all the time that one of the things that happens is you can go away and you can look at packages all across the US, but how does it fit here? And to make sure that people understand that if you're going to do it here, then you should be taking these steps and doing these things. So another way of helping folks. Okay, Carl, I won't go on.
All right. Thanks, Leon. A little different take on the city thing. I unlike before, I really appreciate what Gary is doing in terms of recognizing our current demise or situation by putting these things together and working together. So I think, in that respect, I'm pretty happy that's happening. Recognizing that we need that financial help. But I understand your point. To wrap this up, this is what our far left Albany crazy people are doing. Ready for this? There is a bill that's in committee, 9049. Ready for this? it'll be unlawful for you to rent or lease an apartment based upon the credit report. Now, we don't expect that to go anywhere next, but I just want to bring that to your attention. This is what goes on behind the scenes that nobody knows about until it becomes law, right? So
I had someone this week, their credit report, their credit score was 370. I didn't even know it went that low. So what else am I supposed to base it on? That's crazy to me.
Yeah, you heard. Well, Jamie she went livid today with this. There's no freaking way this is gonna go anywhere. Having said that, just as FYI, this is that time of the year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So this Thursday meeting, we're done till next year. It won't be a Thursday in November and December, right, Sue? If you're still on, I think she's gone. Yeah, so it's kind of it. And when we come back, we're either going to have Trump or Biden. Get out there and vote. Do the right thing. All right, guys, I got to go.
Could you repeat what's unlawful to rent, please? I couldn't catch. I miss it.
What happened?
What is unlawful to rent? You just say.
The what?
I think he's saying
He's talking about the bill you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
It's
about
not, it's not law yet, Jamal. It's in committee that to try to make it illegal to use the credit score for qualifying tenants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So not,
Don't expect it to pass, but it just, this kind of stuff goes on down there. So
okay.
Any last minute comments? We'll check out. Anybody else?
I will say, if you are trying to get a C of O, now's the time to do it and use that COVID waiver. It has saved a ton of time. I mean, obviously we make sure the homes are still, how they should be inside, but I'm telling you, that's the best thing that COVID has brought landlords, if you can give the city credit for anything.
Yeah, so this was an idea from Gary and Kurt, and this is an example of helping us out a little bit. If you don't know real quick, is that you got to turn it up. Interior inspections can be what?
Carl, just for your info, I mean, the meeting and sessions that was just talked about by Beth, I sat in on most of those things. So I'm going to be looking for folks like yourself. I see you got your hand raised up, so that means that you.
Oh no, I'm just going like this.
Is that it? Yeah, I mean, that's the way I've been going over the last couple of months with all the different sessions and stuff that I've been setting in associated with programs that the city is bringing out to make a point associated with what I was saying earlier. So I'm going to be looking for some folks to cover some of those things. So any folks who haven't been involved before, this is a organization built around folks giving their time. It's not a for-profit organization, so as we all know, so most of us anyway. So I'll take all the help I can get at this point in time, and that was part of my rant as I was talking earlier. And I'm not aiming it at most of the people on this page, certainly yourself and Beth, you've been involved from a landlord support standpoint. Susan does all kinds of things. And we also have Andy here, and Andy is one of those silent people who help us through almost everything. So I'm done. I won't say anything else so that you can continue with your done with the meeting, which started about 5 or 10 minutes ago.
Carl, I think Juan had a question. Juan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just backtracking to the 390 score. I was just going to ask you guys, what is the base? What should we be going by? Like 500, 600? Is there a magic number that you're like, I want to see people with this?
700
range?
plus. That's what I hear from everybody is 700 plus.
700, okay.
That's impossible for my
It's
tenants.
impossible in the city.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying.
Carl, what do you do?
I don't do credit reports.
You don't, okay. I mean, if I see 650, I'm super happy, but I think you have to look at the whole picture. You know, at that 370, I was like, whatever, I'm not even gonna look at the rest of it. But I think you have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends a bit. And I got to go back maybe 5, maybe even 10 years ago. I used to say, well, you know, and to take sort of Beth's view of things, boy, I won't even look at that. I won't even consider that. And so maybe a number like 650 or something like that makes sense in the city. And then I went to this house, and most of you guys who know me know I live out in Webster. And so I went to this house in Webster, and it had been rented out. It was a really nice house in a great neighborhood. And I've only seen in my whole entire real estate investment life, okay, 2 houses that had been more damaged and destroyed than that particular house. And the people had great credit scores. It was like, what in the world happened here? You know, so I'm not, even today I have a conflict with that as I sort of look at things and sort of say, well, who should I rent to and what should the credit score be? And it's really one of the greatest challenge as housing providers that we have, and that is to look at that equation with A on one side and B on one side, A being, you know, you're paying out things, and C being the B side of it saying, okay, I got to have enough money to pay for the taxes, for the rents and all those other things. And the tenant is the most important piece. If the tenant doesn't pay, you know, you go to hell in a handbasket, because that equation just falls apart, because you end up having to pay all these monies and you only got 0 coming in. And it's all depend on the tenant. So a very great question, but I think that all of us sort of look at things and say, what is the best thing that I can do to be able to get a decent tenant for this property that's going to make the payments and take care of the property? And it was so weird, because I was talking to one of my friends who all they do is rent in the city. And so we were having a discussion around COVID-19 and all the things that's going on. And so what he says to me is, all my people pay their rent. Not one person has missed paying their rent, because I go through and I select each one of them, and I know that they're going to make their rent payment, and I haven't missed a rent payment. So
Leon, let's wrap this up. So in a nutshell, there's 3 things that I focus on getting that quality tenant outside a credit report. And you heard me speak on this all the time. One is the income to rent ratio, right? Making sure they're not paying up above that 33%. Number 2, Leon mentioned it, is the home visit, mandatory, the home visit. And then number 3 is the rental history. Yep, I get into the rental history. Combined together, like Beth said, it's a combined effort. That is what I go by. A lot of work goes up there at the beginning, but it's worth it.
Yeah, so in this particular case, the person is not as large as Merrill Clark, you know, so it's a small.
By the way, that's verified income, not just stated, it's verified proof.
Yeah, so they take a much more personal view and approach to it. And like you say, I could go on, and when you can go on and on, this could probably be a discussion for next week. Well, it'll be next year, won't it? So, yeah, but it's something that we can go into. I mean, one of the things that you could do is you could actually write a book. And Karl, maybe you want to do this, write a book on what happened back then and what's happening now, and how you be successful as a real estate investor. And I'll buy the book if you outline how you're going to be successful as a real estate investor, given all the stuff we went through.
I got to leave this meeting, man.
You're having too much fun.
All right, we got to go. See y'all. Be careful. Be safe. We got to go.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, Susan. Susan gone?